we reject. But it's the other way around. What they say is, this is our criteria. Doesn't matter about what the divine original message was. If it disagrees with what we say, we will reject it. If it agrees, we'll accept it. But even then, we accept it only because of what we're saying, not because of the truth. وَإِذَا قِيلَ لَهُمْ آمِنُوا بِمَا أَنزَلَ اللَّهُ قَالُوا نُؤْمِنُ بِمَا أُنزِلَ عَلَيْنَا وَيَكْفُرُونَ بِمَا وَرَاءَهُ وَهُوَ الْحَقُّ مُصَدِّقًا لِمَا مَعَهُمْ قُلْ فَلِمَ تَقْتُلُونَ أَنْبِيَاءَ اللَّهِ مِنْ قَبْلُ إِن كُنْتُمْ مُؤْمِنِينَ. So, somebody has brought a new message, has gone to the religious people and said, okay, I have brought a message from God. Now, in this day and age, no new revelation is going to come. But what will happen is people will say, okay, this is what God's message is. I've taken my own opinions out of this. And you go to other groups and say, okay, this is the message we've brought. Let's come to a common ground between us. So when people come to them and say, believe in what God has revealed, they say, no, we believe in what has been revealed to us. And everything beyond that we reject. And this is the mindset of sectarianism. Right? We will only believe what is within our tradition because it's linked to our people, and we will reject everything else. And then it says, well, haqq. Even though this is the truth, they will not accept it because it doesn't come from them. Their sole benchmark for truth is that it comes from this person or this group of people. The benchmark isn't that this is the truth. And I think that's a real core message. Something we take away today is that we shouldn't try to justify what our group is saying, but we should objectively look at what the Quran is saying, and then that is our position. Rather than trying to justify our group's view and trying to twist the Quranic verses or the Prophet saying to agree with what we're saying. And then this is the next bit. I talked about this mismatch right at the start. It says, say to them, why are you killing the prophets if you are believers? Now, this is an interesting point. If somebody is religious, or a religious group claims that we are holy people, we are following God's message, and then they condone killing people, they condone killing scholars, anybody who's against them, that goes against the core values of religion. So God is saying to them, how can you claim to be following the truth when you're going against the most basic value? Life is sacred, the most basic value, you're violating that. How can you claim this? So it doesn't matter what you say. And you see this, especially nowadays, you've got all these extremist groups who justify killing other people. Not just other people, who justify breaking mosques or other sectarian groups. And this is the same message that God is addressing to the Jewish people initially. That how can you claim to be a religious pious group if you are condoning killing? If you're condoning bloodshed, it doesn't add up. So this is the litmus test here, this is the benchmark. If a group is promoting violence that goes against the core values of religion, which is life is sacred, then that group is false. That group does not agree with the core values, the principles of the Quran. And you reject them. And it says, in kuntum mu'minin, if you are believers. You cannot claim to be a believer if you accept that killing is okay. Okay? And you see this, this mentality that's being addressed here is rife amongst extremist groups today. Right? They justify killing on the basis of religion. It's exactly the same thing here. Okay? The prophets were killed on the basis of their religion, because they said, oh, well, they're going against our interpretations. So therefore, we're going to reject this, we're going to kill them. Right? So, in terms of sectarianism, I think that's a really important point for us today. If somebody claims, any group that claims leadership of religion, you look at the actions. If they are condoning hatred of the people, if they are accepting it's okay to go and kill and destroy places of worship, then that's a false group, and we reject that group totally. No matter how you justify it. The scholars of the time here that are being addressed, they justified it based upon their religious texts. But Allah is saying, doesn't matter what you say, it's what your actions are doing. If you're saying killing is okay, that is just not acceptable at all. Completely reject that. Okay. Do a couple of more verses and then we'll close, inshallah. Now we're moving on to the golden calf episode now. وَلَقَدْ جَاءَكُمْ مُوسَى بِالْبَيِّنَاتِ ثُمَّ اتَّخَذْتُمُ الْعِجْلَ مِنْ بَعْدِهِ وَأَنْتُمْ ظَالِمُونَ. And God is reminding them now that Musa came to you with clear proofs, and yet you took for worship the calf, the golden calf, and you were wrongdoers. The interesting point here is that these people weren't misguided because they had no guidance. They were misguided despite the guidance. Yeah, they were misguided despite the guidance. Or the Musa alayhi salam, the Prophet was amongst them. The clear signs were in front of them, and yet they still worshipped the calf. Now the calf here symbolizes wealth. So they made gold and silver their god. They made gold and silver their god. So rather than having God as their top priority, they made gold and silver their top priority. And when there was a conflict between the two, they chose gold and silver over God. And we can see this today as, in our day and age, where the core values of people, even those people who claim to be religious, are to benefit from the religion and get the gold and silver. So they're not really worshipping God, which is total submission. You give up your priorities and your only priority becomes God. And you start worshipping gold and silver. And that's despite you have all the knowledge in front of you. All the evidences are there. Everything you can possibly imagine. And you look as we have, the Quran, authenticated Quran is here. We have the Sunnah as well. And yet despite this, we've got sectarianism, and we have groups in our society who exploit simple folk through religion. And what is interesting here is that these people were claiming religion, that they are religious people. Through religion, they are worshipping idols and gold and silver. And despite the fact that all the proofs are there. So the fact that somebody has knowledge doesn't mean they don't worship gold and silver. Yeah, the fact that somebody has religious learning doesn't mean that. No, those are two separate things. Yeah? They had the knowledge, they had the clear signs, but it's your values. What do you think is important? And how you prioritize that. If your value is to acquire wealth, status and power, then you will use religion for those things. You actually worship, you might worship, you might pray, you might look religious, but actually you are still worshipping the idol of power. So what's at stake here isn't knowledge, but it's the core values, what you think is important. When there's a conflict situation where you have to choose between a right action and one that's going to lose you money, what do you choose? Do you choose to stick to the values of justice or fairness? Or do you go towards making that money, not losing out? So are you going to stand up for your principles or are you going to sell them out? And there's a sub-theme here, that don't sell your souls, don't sell your religion for worldly benefit, for the golden calf. And I feel this verse is really pertinent today, because there is so much religiosity in our communities. And when I mean by religiosity, I'm not talking about religion. Religiosity is this appearance of religion, where people want to say, okay, look how pious I am. Okay, look how long my beard is. Okay, look how careful I am about this, all the outward aspects. But the core values are missing. And these verses, throughout these verses, they're reminding us of the core value, that you submit, you surrender to God, you make God your top priority. When it comes to a conflict situation, you submit, you surrender your interests, your gains, for the sake of truth, for the sake of God. Okay, we'll just finish out with the last two. I think there's only two more verses, and then we'll stop. وَإِذْ أَخَذْنَا مِيثَاقَكُمْ وَرَفَعْنَا فَوْقَكُمُ الطُّورَ خُذُوا مَا آتَيْنَاكُمْ بِقُوَّةٍ وَاسْمَعُوا قَالُوا سَمِعْنَا وَعَصَيْنَا وَأُشْرِبُوا فِي قُلُوبِهِمُ الْعِجْلَ بِكُفْرِهِمْ قُلْ بِئْسَ مَا يَأْمُرُكُمْ بِهِ إِيمَانُكُمْ إِن كُنتُم مُؤْمِنِينَ. God then reminds them of their contract. Now we've been talking about the mithaq here. This contract is a binding agreement between you and God. And it's something you enter with full understanding and out of your own choice. And it has great rewards if you stick to it, but equally great consequences if you go against it. So God is reminding the Jews here, the Bani Israel, that we took this contract from you, this promise from you, and we raised the mountain over you, and we said, take with strength with what we are giving to you. With strength. And listen, wasma'u. What did they say? They said, Qalu sami'na. We have heard, we've listened. Wa'asayna, but disobeyed. Now, what this means here is they've understood it all. Sami'na, we've heard it, but in practice we've disobeyed it. And this is the disconnect between the hand and the tongue. So we say we've heard it, we've understood it. We can write hundreds and millions of books on this. We can give you commentaries upon commentaries on this, explain it. I could give you a 20-hour lecture on a particular verse. But then in practice, we disobey it. So when they didn't say this Qalu Sami'na, we've heard and we disobey. No, they said we hear. But in practice, so God is talking about the actions, in practice they disobeyed. And I feel nowadays we've got this disconnect. There is so much Islam out there. There is so much out there, people are talking about Islam all the time, and yet in practice we disobey. Disobey means we don't apply the messages that have been given to us. We are still pretty much stuck in our little boxes, in our sectarian boxes, and we practically disobey. And I sometimes call this, we are practical atheists. Yeah, practical atheists. Not theologically, of course we say we believe in God. But when it comes to practice, God doesn't really exist in practice. And this is something these verses are warning us. Yeah, the warning here is that avoid this, that you've understood sami'na, we've heard it, we've understood it, and then we disobey. Why? Because our values are wrong. Our value is still those golden calves, the gold and silver. It's not God. Or our values are status and power. If those values are there, doesn't matter, your religion is not religion at all. Yeah, your religion should be making the world a better place. If it's not making the world a better place, and all you're doing is maintaining your position and status, then God is cursing this religion, in the harshest of terms. And then this verse emphasizes, وَأُشْرِبُوا فِي قُلُوبِهُمُ الْعِجْلَ. You know, the love of the calf was so deeply rooted inside their hearts. Yeah, in the subconscious it was there. It wasn't conscious. Yeah, subconscious, it was so deep rooted that they couldn't take the love of the wealth and the gold out of their hearts. Why? Because of their rejection of the core values of religion. The last sentence is beautiful. It says, and how evil it is what your iman is commanding you to. Yeah, their iman, their faith is commanding them to do this. And God says, how evil is this religion that's commanding you to do this? That's commanding you to exploit the people. That's commanding you to create injustice in society. That's commanding you to create make religion so complicated and take people away, be a barrier between them and God. And it's fascinating, Allah saying iman, you know, so these people claim to have iman. He says, imanukum. They claim to have iman. And God is saying, how evil is this iman that's commanding you to do this? Yeah? If you are real believers, in kuntum mu'mineen. If you're really real believers. So the tragedy here is that these people, this mindset that God is talking about, they're delusional. Okay? In their minds, they believe they are people of faith, people of iman, they are people of religion, they are people of God, they're following the book. And yet their iman is commanding them the most hideous things, leading to injustice, leading to chaos in society. And the next verse really emphasizes why this happens. قُلْ إِن كَانَتْ لَكُمُ الدَّارُ الْآخِرَةُ عِندَ اللَّهِ خَالِصَةً مِّن دُونِ النَّاسِ فتمنوا الموت إن كنتم صادقين. And the tragedy here is they still believe that they are going to get the best in the Akhirah. Yeah? They believe Jannah is theirs. Yeah, we hear this all the time. Yeah? Follow our religion, follow our sect, and you're going to go straight to Jannah. And Allah is saying, if they believe, and exclusively for them, khalisatan min dunin nas, exclusively. So they say that the only way to paradise is through us. Yeah? Only us. And God is saying, if that is the case, قُلْ إِن كَانَتْ, if the life, the abode of the hereafter is purely for you, then why don't you wish death and get to it quickly? In kuntum sadiqin. Your actions should be for the akhirah then. Why your actions all linked to the dunya? Instead of investing in your akhirah, you are actually investing in your dunya only. If you are really, really honestly, truthfully believing in the concept of the akhirah, and then you should be investing in the akhirah, and then say, okay, let death come, we'll go. But yet your actions are saying the opposite. Your actions are saying, we want to stay in this dunya forever. We want to build these big mega mosques. We want to build all these empires. Yeah, create huge millions of following, all to do with worldly power. Yeah. So Allah is undercutting the argument, saying, if you really are truthful, then give up all the world. Give up this status and world and work for the akhirah. Make the world a better place. Yeah. Otherwise, you're lying. And the next verse says they will never do this. وَلَنْ يَتَمَنَّهُ أَبَدًا بِمَا قَدَّمَتْ أَيْدِيهِمْ وَاللَّهُ عَلِيمٌ بِالظَّالِمِينَ. And they will never desire this ever because of what their hands have sent forward. And Allah is fully aware of the wrongdoers. And they won't, because in their heart of hearts they know that actually all they're doing is for the dunya, it's not for the akhirah. They know this. So their actions, they know this, and they know that when they go back to God, He's going to question them. And they really know this, so therefore they will never wish this. And this section finishes off with this verse, and we'll stop on this verse. وَلَتَجِدَنَّهُمْ أَحْرَصَ النَّاسِ عَلَى حَيَاةٍ وَمِنَ الَّذِينَ أَشْرَكُوا يَوَدُّ أَحَدُهُمْ لَوْ يُعَمَّرُ أَلْفَ سَنَةٍ وما هو بمزهزهه من العذاب أن يعمر والله بصير بما يعملون. Now there are some people who say there is nothing beyond life. Okay, the mushrikeen, they say we live, we die, we crumble into dust, nothing else. And God is saying that you will find that these religious people who claim to have religion, they will love the dunya more than the people who don't even believe in the next life. Yeah, they don't expect anything. They will love the dunya more than people who, in their philosophy, only the dunya exists, nothing else exists. So these people are even worse than them when it comes to being worldly. So وَلَتَجِدَنَّهُمْ, you will certainly find them the most greedy of people for this life, even than those who are polytheists. And the reason why polytheists are mentioned, because the mushrikeen at the time of the Prophet ﷺ, they had this philosophy that when you die, that's it. End of everything. When you crumble to dust, that's it. So whatever you can get it now. You only live once. Yeah, similar philosophy that we have today. Amongst atheist circles, you only live once. That's it. So they will do anything for the dunya because there's nothing after this in their philosophy. So Allah is saying that these religious people, actually they are acting worse than them in terms of not believing in the akhirah at all. Yeah? So they claim, these religious people claim to believe in the akhirah, yet they love the dunya more than the people who only believe in the dunya. And even if you gave them a choice, they would want to live for 1,000 years. And God says even if they lived to that age, they would not be protected from punishment. Because of the actions, there will be certain consequences. And Allah is fully aware of what they're doing. Okay, let's summarize then what we've talked about today. Okay, this was overview. God sent a message. That message gets corrupted over time. People start with their own interpretations, and those people who interpret the message, they believe that is the only understanding of religion. Then over time what God will do is send messages or create people in society who will try to take you back to the source again. But these people who are the formal gatekeepers of religion, they will reject this and they will attack them, even try to kill those people. Okay. So how do you check if somebody claims that they're calling you to God? What do you do? And the way you check that is you look at the criteria in the Quran. In the Quran, Allah gives us the contract that is made. If you are sticking to that contract, then that person is truthful and you agree with that person. The catch-22 of religious groups, if everybody claims that they're following God's book, okay, they can't all be right. And they will never come to an agreement. That means forever there will be conflict in society because every group will insist that they've got the truth. Unless you get something which isn't coming from one particular group, you agree this criteria which is objective, otherwise you will never get agreement in society. And this is our travesty today, that we can't get agreement in our groups because nobody is benchmarking themselves with the criteria of the Quran. They are benchmarking themselves with their own criteria. You can claim to be religious, but your reality, your actions speak louder than words. Yeah? So we can claim to be very, very pious religious people. If our actions aren't benefiting society, aren't helping the needy, they're not focused on welfare, your religion doesn't mean anything. And the litmus test of faith is that you will give up the akhirah, you will give the dunya for the akhirah. Yeah, that is it, you will give up the dunya for the akhirah. And avoid worshipping golden calf of gold and silver. And the warning there was that you could have the truth, you could have even the prophet amongst you, but that's no guarantee that you're following the truth if you're insisting on your own interpretation. And the tongue and the hand, again, the tongue is saying we believe, we accept, we believe, we accept, but the hand, the actions are totally opposite. So we need to watch out for that. And if you're claiming your righteousness, you're holy, you're pious, you will never give priority to the akhirah at the expense, to the dunya at the expense of the akhirah. So that is your ultimate test. If somebody's claiming to be religious, that is the test there. It should be geared towards the akhirah rather than the dunya. And if the actions are showing that actually all they're after is money, power, status, control, then that's dunya. That's dunya, and that's a clear benchmark there. Okay, may Allah help us to understand the Quran deeply and to take messages away from this and apply in our own lives. Because at the end of the day, I think the important thing is to take one or two messages and share them with people who are not here today, and also try to live the messages of the Quran. Okay, Jazakallah.